Georgia State. It's a great speech. I really enjoyed it. So one thing that I wanted to talk about, you do these kinds of speeches every once in a while. You went to SMU recently, Penn State a couple months back. So just I wanted to touch on if you could talk about why you think it's important to reach out to college students, especially in this specific political movement that we're in right now.
Well, the young people are really the future of this country. And right now, the energy opposing Donald Trump is coming from, I guess, people of my generation get a little too jaded. And, well, for another thing, you know, our bones creak and we have aches, so they don't come out to demonstrations. But the young people are the ones that are going to determine the future of this country. And it is so heartening to see the resistance to Donald Trump come in such huge and strong numbers from the college campuses. It's like when I was a college student and we had the peace movement, which, you know, we had the Vietnam War going in the far southeastern Asian country. But this country was being torn by those who fiercely supported him, and those of us who were against him and for peace. And it was a turbulent time. And I sense the resurgence of that kind of strong and principled energy in the young people today. And yes, it's true, we see that opposition to our position amongst young people too. That's good. I think we need that. I believe in a two-party system and two rational groups that present thoughtful responses to any common challenge. But now we're getting resistance to just freedom of speech. Berkeley, the college that I went to, where free speech became a flaming issue. Although it was after I left there and transferred to UCLA, is a place where this Breitbart editor was banned from speaking because of violent resistance to it. I don't think there's any place for that. So I believe in rational tension between groups of people that think differently. And I think we become better, I'm a Democrat, we become better Democrats for listening to Republicans. And I think the Republicans too become more steeped in and better grounded in their arguments by hearing our concerns and our differences.
And you obviously, like you said, you're a Democrat. You've been pretty outspoken about your disdain for the Trump administration so far, especially this immigration ban that President Trump has put into place. In an op-ed for the New York Daily News, he even said he should step down because of it. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's actually a Georgia State student right now being detained in Saudi Arabia because of the immigration ban. So I'd like to know what your message would be to her specifically, and
why is she being detained?
Right now, she has a student visa. She's from Yemen originally. She lives in Saudi Arabia, and she's going to study to get a better education. She went home for a break, and right now she's not being allowed back into the country because of the executive order. So, just what your message would be to her or to anybody else affected by the ban?
Well, we will do all that we can to bring Donald Trump's presidency tenure to a quick end, but she needs to be strong too. We appreciate her determination to come back to this country because I think on so many levels Donald Trump has been so destructive economically, being against free trade. We're a global society now, and we are globally interconnected economically, culturally, socially, and this man won't recognize that. America first, which is an antiquated, old, outdated concept. Our prosperity is dependent on being part of this global society. And if our neighbors are successful economically, we're that much more successful. With this policy, our neighbors are going to become impoverished, and our economy is going to shrink. You know, I visited Japan, and I see the challenge for the future in what I see in Japan. They have a growing senior population and a shrinking younger population. And the prospect of bringing social sector to the seniors is being diminished. They say technology, and I saw where robotics is now taking the place of. They had a family structure where the children of the oldsters took care of them, but now just the problem of the economy, the children can't afford to stay home and take care of the seniors. So now they have robots to entertain the seniors, and also to remind them to take medicine. And they're amazingly lifelike humanoid robots. And those same robots are there to babysit the children because mom's adding to the labor force. And the robots sing nursery rhymes with them and teach them how to count. And the ABCs, or Japanese katakana, hiragana. And so that's making the economy shrink even more. And that's why the Japanese economy has been in the doldrums for decades now. And in the 80s, it was the most dynamic, booming. And some Americans considered Japan an economic threat. You know, the novel The Rising Sun, and how Japan was taking over the auto industry. Well, Japan is shrinking. And the same thing seems to be happening in China as well. Their economy is starting to slow down. It was a really expansive economy. 8% growth, 9% growth, 10% growth, and now it's down to 6 or 7 and shrinking. And so they, in order to build a market for their economy, they're now going to Africa and lending them money to build rail transportation system, their infrastructure, and exporting their engineering talent, their construction talent, because they're not hiring locally. They don't exist. The engineers to build high-speed transportation system. They have that experience. So they're making job opportunities for them in foreign countries where they don't have an infrastructure that China has built. And so because their economy is shrinking and going abroad. And so the rejection of globalization is going to be our duty if we continue with the Trump administration.
Just one more question for you. I know in the speech you mentioned that you've been very involved in a variety of political campaigns for many different offices over the years. You talked about in your speech how you have a love for American democracy. Your father called it a people's democracy. And this election cycle, that democracy elected Donald Trump into office, and obviously that's a decision that you don't agree with. So moving forward into the next election cycle, what proposition would you have for the next Democratic candidate to reach out to those Trump voters to try and get them toward your side? How do you think that could happen?
Well, first of all, structurally, our voting system now, I think, is outdated. Donald Trump was elected by the electoral process. Hillary won the popular vote by 3 million votes. And so I think it's time for us to readdress that issue. I used to support the electoral process, electoral college process, because it was founded in the days when information got out very slowly to those in the hinterlands. Pony Express took weeks to get the information out, and we didn't want the tyranny of the children. We wanted their participation as well to make it a real people's democracy. And so that made sense to have the electoral college system. But now, we don't need the Pony Express system to get that information out. It's instantaneous. And so I think the first business on the agenda is to eliminate the electoral college process and go by the popular vote. By that, Hillary would have won. And by the next presidential election, I think we should have some interesting candidates. I think Kristen Gillibrand from New York is an interesting candidate. Chris Murphy from Connecticut is an interesting candidate. Our Attorney General in California, Javier Becerra, is going to be a real star in the political scene, as well as our Lieutenant Governor. My mind is now, I'm having these blanks. Donald Sutherland was the name that didn't appear to me in my mind. Donald Sutherland was very active. He was one of the leaders of the EIBJ. But our Lieutenant Governor is Brad.
Okay, great. Okay, bye. We'll be right there.
My mind just blanked out on our Lieutenant
Donald
Governor.
Sutherland.
No. Yes, I know. It came to me, but our Lieutenant Governor in California.
Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom.
Can you guys wrap it up pretty soon?
Yeah, we're finishing up right now.
Gavin Newsom is going to be an interesting figure in the year 2000.
All right. Well, Mr. Takei, I just want to thank you for talking to us today. A wonderful speech. And
Right now, my mind's kind of
absolutely. Thank you so
used
much.
up, and I seem to be going on autopilot.
All right.
Well, good chatting with you.
Absolutely.